In this part of the lesson, we're going to look at a couple of techniques used to select multiple cells on a worksheet, which again is one of those very common tasks in Excel VBA. I'll start by opening up the file that I've already downloaded and extracted, and the file doesn't contain any code, so I don't need to enable any content, and it's the same list of 10 most profitable films that you saw in the previous part of this lesson. The first thing I'd like to do is write a subroutine which formats the column headings in this worksheet, so that's everything from cell A1 to D1. So I'll head to the Developer tab and open up the Visual Basic Editor, insert a new module as usual, and then I'll create a new subroutine called Select Block of Cells. Now, just as we used the range property to refer to a single cell in the previous part of this lesson, we can use the range property to refer to multiple cells as well. When I type in the range property and open some parentheses, inside a set of double quotes, I can refer to the first cell that I'm interested in, then a colon, and then the last cell that I'm interested in, which was D1. If I close the double quotes and close the parentheses, I can apply the select method to that block of cells, and all cells between A1 to D1 will be selected. Next, I'd like to apply some basic formatting to the cells that I've selected. In the previous part of the lesson, we used the active cell keyword to do that. But when we have multiple cells selected, active cell isn't that useful. Let's run this subroutine to see what I mean by that. If I run the subroutine and switch back into Excel, you'll see that when I have multiple cells selected, there's still only one active cell, which is the one that's a slightly different colour to all of the rest. I can change which cell is active, but there's still only ever one of them. I'm just pressing the Enter key at this point to navigate to a different cell or activate a different cell within the selection. So what we want to do instead is refer to the selection keyword to refer to all of the selected cells. So if I switch back to the Visual Basic Editor, I can refer to the selection keyword on the next statement. So selection followed by a full stop. Now, one of the downsides to the selection keyword, of course, is it doesn't provide you with any IntelliSense. So you have to either know or guess what properties to apply. I'm going to refer to the interior property and then the color property, which being a UK user, I must watch out for not spelling colour with the U. That won't work. So colour with no U. And then I can make this equal to, let's say, RGB pale green, rather than pale goldenrod, whatever colour that is. Once I've done that, I can run the subroutine again. And if I switch back to the Excel window, we should see that the selected cells are all coloured in that same shade of green. We can also use the range property to refer to multiple non-adjacent cells. So for the next example, I'd like to apply the same formatting to all of the details of both Avengers films in the list. So that's cells A6 to D6, as well as A8 to D8. So to make that work, I'll switch back to the Visual Basic Editor, and let's create a new subroutine for this. Let's create a subroutine called Select Non-Adjacent Cells. I've put none of adjacent cells. What I meant to put was non-adjacent. There we go. Having done that, I can refer to the range property again, and starting in the same way as I did earlier, I can refer to my first block of cells as A6 to D6. Then within the same set of double quotes, I can type in a comma, followed by A8 to D8, close the double quotes, close the parentheses, followed by a full stop and the word select. And if I were to run that subroutine at this point, I can switch back to Excel and see that those two separate non-adjacent rows of cells have been selected. All I need to do now is add in the code that will apply some formatting to those cells. So I'll switch back to the Visual Basic Editor, and again I can use the selection keyword to do this. So I can say selection.interior.color, again spelt without the U, equals RGB red, and then following that I can say selection.font.color equals RGB white. And if I simply run the subroutine at that point, switch back to Excel, I'll find that all of those cells have applied the same formatting. So at this point, you could either move down to the extra practice session at the bottom of this page to get a bit more practice with dealing with multiple cells. Alternatively, you could just move on to the next part of this lesson, which teaches you how to move between different worksheets in order to select cells.